Welcome back to the Nostalgia Podcast. On this episode, we'll take you back in time to the era of cell phones before touchscreens dominated the market. Join us as we explore the phones that once ruled the world and reminisce about the simpler times when music on a phone was considered cutting edge. From the iconic flip phones such as the Razr to the legendary Nokia bricks, we'll dive into the features, quirks, and nostalgia-inducing moments of all these devices. So grab your old phone, tune in, and let's take a trip down memory lane on the Nostalgia Podcast. So go ahead and get things started. I am your host, John, and I am joined by two other lovely hosts. We have Becky coming back. How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good, John. How are you doing?
Just pretty good?
Yeah, hanging in there, by a thread.
And our guest here today is Mike. Welcome back. I know it's been a whole episode.
Captain, how you been?
Pretty good. Ahoy.
Oh, beautiful.
Should I start? Ahoy. Welcome back to the Nostalgia Podcast.
We just missed you so much that we couldn't go 2 episodes without having you back on.
It's okay. The dumpster fire can resume now.
I know. That's the beauty of it. It's one big dumpster fire. So, as I said in the beginning, we're going to be talking about cell phones today, but specific cell phones. So, all the way up until they turned into touchscreen. There might be a little bit of overlap, but we're basically trying to keep things like the iPhones and the Android phones out of the mix for this one. We're going to have a later one because I don't know about you guys, but I think I've had almost too many to count. I would probably say over like 45 to 50 Android and iPhones.
Yeah, that's very believable. And honestly, for you, I feel like that's a low estimate.
I think so.
That's disgusting.
John has a new phone every time I see him.
I know. He sells them to me.
I know. I have actually sold quite a few phones to Mike. But yeah, I had a month specifically where I went through like 15 phones or something like that in 1 month.
Oh my god.
Because I was just swapping them out. Yeah, I used to like buy and sell phones a lot. So I'd buy them with a cracked screen, I'd fix them, I'd use them for about a month and then sell them. I mean, it got me some money back in like late high school, I would say. It got me enough money to kind of do what I wanted to do.
You did that in college too, so it bled into early college because I remember that.
Yeah, definitely did. But we'll go ahead and we'll get things started here by first asking Becky, because I heard you have a really important retro thing that you did this week.
Oh, well, important might be a stretch. But,
too hype?
Yeah, that's a little too hype. So I helped my mom move this weekend, actually.
All right, I may have overhyped it.
Yeah, you overhyped. It's very boring, but but when you move one of your parents, you always unearth all these things that you had in your childhood because, as parents, they just can't let that stuff go. They're like, yeah, I'm keeping this in a box somewhere forever. Oh, and then when they die, you have to deal with it after. But anyways, but yeah, so I was helping my mom move this weekend, and just a bunch of different things that I remember from my childhood. And it was kind of cool, like going through some of the boxes and stuff that she had in her old house to see what they were and things like that. And a really old typewriter that we've had forever. Yeah, like it's an old typewriter that used to be my grandfather's and stuff. And we had it since he passed away when I was like 2 years old. And so, yeah, that just, obviously that's the definition of nostalgia, just seeing all the old crap you used to have and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely overhyped because it was a pretty boring one. Sorry.
Just a little.
Yeah.
No first edition Charizards hidden in the garage?
No, that would be if I have to move my dad, because when we start doing in-person episodes, I think we could probably do a whole episode on old school like fast food toys, because my dad collects them and has a big old box of them. Yeah. And so if we have them in person, I can ask him to borrow them because he thought they were going to be worth some money, but they're probably not.
Just be sure to stay away from like the camcorder with the old school VHS tapes that have mundane writing on them.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
those ones you keep in the garage.
Yeah, the ones where the writing is actually just scratched on. It's not even written.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
gosh.
yeah, that was mine.
All right. Well, you know what? It still counts.
Right.
We'll let you off on a technicality.
All right, thank you.
What about you, Mike? Did you do anything this week at all?
Oh yeah. So recently had my fiance watch MXC, which, as Becky knows, is most extreme. Oh, what is it? Most extreme competitions or something. It's
Yeah, something like that.
It's an old Japanese game show of challenges that was dubbed over in English and is just a wild ride of horrible stunts gone wrong, essentially.
This was on TV?
Spike
Yeah.
TV back in probably
TV.
early 90s.
It would air like right before like Robot Wars. I remember I used to watch Robot Wars with my dad.
Yeah.
too.
Oh, I did used to watch Robot Wars. Those things were awesome.
Those were cool. And you missed MXC.
I did. I mixed MXC, and I'm actually not overly mad at that fact.
No, you're missing
You
out.
take that back right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at it because I definitely like understand why it was on, the channel it was on. Definitely looks interesting. I'll give you that, and I'll give it a chance. But I'd say Robot Wars are better.
I will fight you.
With what, robots? I'm down. As part of this, I've been like looking into old cell phones because as someone who really has loved cell phones over the years, everything like from my original phone up, it has been just an obsession of mine. And anyone who knows me, I do really buy. I mean, I always had the newest phone that's come out. Specifically lately, been sticking with iPhones, but I've been reminiscing and looking back at stuff, and I actually found one of the phones that I'm going to be talking about this afternoon, and thought it was awesome. And I completely forgot it was a thing. It wasn't technically a flip phone. It was a slide phone, which I always thought were better. But the really cool thing is it actually had an earpiece built into it. So it was really cool. I wound up finding it in the closet and just going through things. And I thought it was the neatest thing. It's actually what prompted this episode. So I will be talking about it later. So my retro or nostalgic week is kind of mediocre because of it, but you'll hear more about it later.
I feel like that's cheating a little bit. Like
just a little bit. Fine. You know what?
No.
Bring it back to the gaming. I'm still playing Link's Awakening. Haven't finished it yet.
All right.
I'm about halfway through. Yeah. Is that better? That's nostalgic. I mean, I've started Pokemon Moon, which was a 3DS game.
All right. Save them for the next podcast. It's fine. You cheated.
Save for next week.
You can't take back the cheatingness. It's over.
We're not going down the Nintendo emulator rabbit hole again.
Oh god.
We can though. But what we're going to be doing here is talking about the old school cell phones. Basically everything from like the early Nokia phones, which I think is probably like a lot of people's first phone that they dealt with.
You're adorable.
All the way up to something like the what was it? The Rumor, I believe, LG Rumor. We'll look later on, but there's basically right before everything switched over to touchscreen, the boring slab phone. So back when phones were actually cool looking and had character. Mike, why don't you let us know, where did your cell phone journey start?
All right, let the old guy take over here for a moment. So
exactly,
way back in the year 1990-91.
I was -1.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, it was like -2 or 3.
You weren't even a blink back then. My dad actually got the first cell phone that I had ever seen, and we are legitimately talking the old school brick phones that weighed 40 pounds each, had the long 2-foot antenna coming out the top. It sort of looked like what the military used back in the 60s. This thing would be carried around in a briefcase, if you will, with a battery attached to it to make phone calls. It was as bulky and obtuse as you could possibly imagine. It was just absolutely ridiculous. That was then followed by the first car phone that he got. I believe it was in an old Mercedes of his. This thing was legitimately built into the center console, and you would just pull it out. It had one of the loop cords on it, and you would make phone calls from your car using this thing.
I forgot car phones were even a thing.
Yeah, we're going way back.
Technically, they are cell phones, right? I mean, realistically speaking, they're phones on the go that I'm pretty sure they connect to cell towers, right?
Way back then?
Yeah. They had to have. I mean, some sort of cell tower, right?
So yeah, after the car phone things, I didn't get my first cell phone until middle school, I think. And I still can't find it. Every single search that I do online, it's about as generic as you could possibly get. It was a basic LG flip phone, had no screen on the front, had a little tiny antenna that you could pull up to extend your range, and basic like just T9 dial pads on it with a very basic screen on the inside. Couldn't even play Snake at the time.
Oh, Snake! Oh, that's my turn. When I'm up, man, that's gonna be the first thing I mention. So
yeah, I was gonna say me too. So there's gonna be a lot of that probably.
I feel like there's a lot of overlap, and I would think that. Actually, you know what? I bet we all got cell phones at different times. Not even just like date wise. I bet like age wise.
It depends on because it really depends on your parents with when they thought you could have a phone.
Oh yeah,
mine was pretty late. Like especially my sister was pretty late. She was like, I want to say she was like a senior in high school, or not a senior. Jesus, no, like a freshman in high school or something. Jeez, no, that'd be crazy.
I mean, I was one of the rare kids that had a cell phone way back then. Beyond rare. It was unheard of at the time. But yeah, from there, I had that phone for years. And then I eventually went over to one of the old school Nokia brick phones, the quote unquote indestructible ones. And it truly was. I mean, it's floating around in a desk drawer somewhere in my house right now, beat up, dent, scratched, whatever. If I hot swap the battery on it, I guarantee that stupid thing will fire up. And you know what? It will play Snake.
100%. There's not a doubt in my mind that it'll start up and you'll be able to play it.
But
like those things were absolutely bonkers. You could use them as a hammer and they'd actually break the thing you're hitting before they break.
Buddy. Those good old face plates. Just easily hot swap them. You're good to go. It's a hard reboot for a reason. The only time that it actually went down was because you dropped on the floor and the battery came out of it. Otherwise, it was uptime 99% of the time.
Yeah. Got better uptime than some cloud servers.
They last forever too.
But yeah, same exact black and green screen straight out of a friggin' Game Boy Classic. And
oh yeah.
What were the other games on there? Because there was definitely Snake, but I remember there being another one.
The ball one, the Pong.
Yeah. Was it Pong?
No, it wasn't Pong. It was
Brick Breaker.
Brick Breaker. Thank you.
Brick Breaker. Yes.
Yep.
Oh my god! You use the arrows to go back and forth and just boing 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 boing. Boing.
Yep. Oh yeah. I'm actually going to get into that in my turn too, because Snake and Brick Breaker are the two games that my first phone came with.
All right. I'll let my hot topic for cell phone nostalgia be: who here was proficient enough to T9 text in your pocket during school?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Nope, not me.
Like that. I mean,
honestly,
really?
I was always the olds. I didn't even use T9. I pressed the buttons multiple times. I didn't like texting back then.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Until QWERTY keyboards, I was like, nah, I'm not a big texter. You know, like I just didn't do it.
Spoiled in that regard. We had a huge text plan and everything just for that purpose. Nonstop in high school the entire time.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things about slide phones instead of flip phones was that you could easily open them in your pocket and text people back.
Yep.
It was just so easy. You just flick it up quick and good to go.
And you can still do it. I think you can switch on
what?
Google Messages, I think, has T9 still available if you want to.
I'm going to have to look at that.
Yeah.
I used an old phone a little bit ago and tried it, and it's amazing how it's muscle memory, and you can just go back to and just type.
Yeah, like it's nothing.
It's crazy.
Yep, 5 minutes.
It's so weird.
And I still think that some people can type faster doing T9 than you can on a full-fledged keyboard, especially on
definitely
touchscreens nowadays.
What'd you have after the Nokia?
Razr V3.
Was it?
It was. Went straight for glory right there. Yeah, and that thing survived probably a good 7-8 years. It shattered the front camera screen. The little plastic filament on the actual keys was disintegrating when I got rid of it. Went through 3 or 4 batteries at the time. That thing was a tank.
Oh man, you're making me really, really miss removable batteries.
You're welcome.
Easy to swap out, keep on going. You keep an extra one with you if you're going camping or something.
Yeah, catch your pocket on fire.
Man.
It's all cool.
And I actually was doing research for this episode, and I didn't know that V3 has absolutely nothing to do with the version. I definitely thought it was like the third version of it. I'm looking for like version 1 and 2, trying to figure out like, no, V3 was a model number.
If I recall correctly, Motorola was using it as a way to quote unquote catch up with everyone else that was on V3, 4, 5, whatever. LG and Samsung were way ahead of the curve in that regard already, and Motorola was just playing the game.
That's hilarious because everything before that, Motorola wise, was very boring. It was very modest. There was nothing crazy about it, and all these other companies started to get ahead of them. So it doesn't surprise me that that's the case. Not to mention that, but they also wanted to go for something bold, something that looked like it was made by a marketing team as opposed to like a engineer.
Well, it was futuristic. I mean, to think that you went from a bulky brick of a Nokia straight to this razor thin product that to this day is probably still thinner than some smartphones out there. And it's a testament to its time.
So it definitely is thinner than most phones, but it is over double the size of the current iPhone.
Is it really?
Even when flipped up?
Yeah.
Wait, I need to look at this one. Well, go to like GSM Arena or something. I need to see metrics here. The nostalgia overload on this is just making it remind me of it being dinky and tiny in a 7-year-old's hand.
Yeah, you think of it and it's like, okay, I remember this thing being incredibly thin because at the time it was. But when you're holding it, look how small it is in someone's hand. For anyone listening in audio, I apologize. But it basically looks like a toy, which is absolutely hilarious. So it is, let's see, 1/2 inch thick. All right, here, let's go with the newest iPhone. So the newest iPhone, I guess, is 0.3 inches. Yeah, you think of it so small in your hand. Like the Razr was such a small phone for the time because you were looking at these bricks. I mean, when you're looking at older phones,
you're talking the iPhone. It is a brick. It's over twice as heavy.
Well, yeah, that too.
But also, is that
it was so light.
Are those the dimensions of folded up or folded out?
No, it's closed.
Closed? Okay, so then if you fold it out, you can half that.
Oh, yeah.
To be like
kind of. You still have the
0.275. Whatever. Don't worry about the chin. Chin's fine.
Don't worry about the chin. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, leave him alone.
Stop making fun of him. Like, I'm trying to find any other information about it, but everything back then was so incredibly like low tech.
Oh my god. Main camera for the Razr? Yes. Main camera for the iPhone? Hey, 24, 25. Yeah, like I just love how it's like, HDR Dolby Vision, and then
Motorola, just take a look at that though. Motorola was ahead of its time. 3.5 millimeter jack? No.
Yep. No. Confirmed. They were the first ones to remove the headphone jack. Motorola was first.
I knew Apple just copied everybody else.
So do you remember back then it wasn't the 3.5 millimeter, it was the smaller one.
Oh my god.
Remember the headsets?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
The 2.5s would come with the TRRS instead of the TRS, so that it would be your microphone and your headphones in the same plug.
Yeah. I don't think this had it.
No,
it had nothing.
I think that was before this.
It just had the, what was it? The mini USB, micro USB.
Which was the fat USB one? Mini. It's mini. Oh man.
Yeah. That adds like a 1/4 of an inch by itself right there. The mini
there
USB.
It is. That's the difference. That's the iPhone difference right there.
If it was lightning, it'd be as thin as an iPhone.
Exactly. I don't think it'd ever be lightning though. Although I believe was it Motorola had a partnership with Apple before the iPhone? It was Motorola or LG, one of the two. They used to have a partnership and they put out a specific phone for like business use and stuff. And then the iPhone came out with them and just kind of like screwed them over.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, a 650 milliamp or 680 milliamp hour battery.
And it lasted for like 8 months.
Right? Back when you didn't have the power, like 12K Hyper HD display.
I mean, it didn't even
RGB.
have, between the two screens on the front and the back of the phone, it probably had maybe 1 inch between both of them together?
Yeah, probably. Something crazy. No, it was a 2.2 inch screen.
Oh, wow.
Ooh. Ball.
Wow, 176 by 220 pixels. I feel like this is the phone that most people associate with their childhood, right? I figure, like, whether you're born in the late 80s or, like, early even, 2000s? I think it's it came out in 2004. So, like, I guess if you're, like, 5 years old, you wouldn't have this phone. But I guess late 90s to late 80s, I would say, you probably had this phone. Me, I did not have this phone. This phone was mostly on AT&T, I believe. I believe it was GSM only for a while until it got to the second version of it. And by then, the hype kind of died down a lot. And I actually did not. This is one phone that I actually never had. And it kind of made me sad.
That's a little ironic, but because you are who you are. I actually also never had the Razr, and that's because I was poor.
It was a very expensive phone for the time.
$300.
$300 with new activation.
Yeah, and that was a good amount of money for a phone back then.
Yeah, looks like $450 back then for a phone.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Insane.
Yeah,
like for instance, if we look at the one of the ones I'll talk about, the NV1. This GSM Arena probably shows this information, but yeah, this was the NV1 was $150. Mm-hmm. You're talking a $300 difference for a phone that came out around the same time.
Did the NV1 come out around the same time as the Razr? I think there was a
it did.
A year and a half.
So that was actually going to be the next phone on my list. John, I'll let you
shoot, crap, reel it back in.
I'll let you go through that one a little more in depth, but that was the next one that I got after the Razr. I think that was right before I graduated high school, so right around that 2004 to 2007 time frame.
Which NV did you have?
The original one, followed by the V3. I skipped the 2 altogether.
The 2 and the 3 were really close to each other. There's just minor differences, but the 1 to the 2 was such a drastic change.
Well, the 2 had like that weird trackpad thing on it compared to just the normal up, down, left, right one, if I recall.
Yes. It was also much smaller.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I definitely
and
did
it was
not
more
have
focused around... It was a multimedia phone, which was a huge craze back then. After the Razr got so popular, everybody wanted something that could play music for them.
Mm-hmm.
And not like listen to it like an iPod or something like that, as in like play it as a ringtone kind of thing. But then you started to get into these phones with like speakers on them where, you could listen to your music on it, even though it sounded like absolute ass.
And it's all started from there. Yep. All in your little meaty ringtones and fun times. Being able to download, what were the things at the times? Reverse ringtones or something so that you could play music for people that were calling you.
It's funny that you brought that up because I was actually going to take the opportunity when we were talking about the Razr to bring up, if you guys remembered that crap where like you would text or call a number and then you would have to text a secondary number to pick the song that you wanted.
Yes.
For the callback tones, like instead of getting it online, you would have to call a number and then punch in a code, and then it would send it to your phone. I don't even know how that technology works because I haven't looked into it since I actually got into tech.
They used to do that over commercials on TV.
Yeah. Yep.
Late at night. If you wanted like the Crazy Frog song or something, it was text this code.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, text this code for whatever the hell, and then and then you can also do the same thing for call ringback tones, I think is what it was called when you call somebody and you hear the ringback tones and stuff like that. Oh my god.
I remember that one. It was some kind of Aerosmith song that I had for mine, 99 cents a month. And my dad canceled it, and Verizon, for whatever reason, would go back to playing orchestral music whenever someone called you instead of a regular ringing one. So that was fun.
99 cents a month seems small, but like just to have one song play.
Yeah. And it was nonstop. Yep, it was just that one song every single time. I mean,
that's what you used to have to pay for a single song on iTunes.
And when you factor, true. I mean, after you factor in your text plan, plus, I mean, everything was singular back then. So you had a designated text plan, then you had your data plan if you really were fancy. Plus, you had your amount of minutes. And forget about if you went outside your area or network and
started roaming. You shut your phone off.
Yeah. Oh god, and then like rollover minutes were a thing. Like AT&T was real big on the rollover minutes if you don't use them and stuff like that. Oh jeez.
So I'll skip the envy. I'll let you talk about that one, John. My last phone on the list was right before I went to touchscreen phones. It was a BlackBerry 9330. It was the silver model. And this was the old school one with the little roller ball in the middle, full-fledged keyboard.
Oh, god.
The classic.
Maybe it wasn't a 9330. It's older than that.
2010.
This one had physical keys and like hard punch.
It's amazing that before this, you'll notice with some of the ones that I get into that the names are such crap. They all suck. It's like they were just like, let's look at what we put on the actual board for the device, and we'll just use that. That's perfectly fine. We only need it for the website. People will buy it. Then you start getting into like the Razr, and it's like the Motorola Razr, or the Roker, or what was the other one? There was a third one. Crazer. That was the third one.
Oh, God, the Crazer. I remember that.
And now you suddenly have these like catchy names and stuff.
Yeah.
But before that, it was just like...
There we go. Sorry, I was off by like 1,000 numbers. So the BlackBerry Curve 8310.
8310. Oh, that's even older.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this thing was amazing. Full color screen, roller trackball, hard tactile buttons at the time. It was amazing.
So, was this before BlackBerry Messenger?
No, this was back when BlackBerry was for businesses, by businesses, you name it. It had Messenger and their email client. Stuff I never used because I was the only person in probably 100-mile radius that had one of these things.
I was going to say, did your parents have a little bit of money when you were growing up? Because, man, you're talking about having all these fancy phones and, yeah.
This thing was, oh, God, even back then, it was probably $700-800. On top of a data plan back then when...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because these were such a unique thing, because this was right near the release of the iPhone, which was notably, like, the very first iPhone didn't do so. It sold like crazy, but it had issues with networks because it wasn't built to withstand that kind of data transfers. So BlackBerry actually, or RIM, created their own, like, internet messenger, which turned out to be BlackBerry Messenger, that went through the internet but used really, really small bytes of data as opposed to like just fully sending it over the internet. It was like this really cool innovation that they had. It's basically iMessage before iMessage was a thing.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, this got me way down into a rabbit hole for BlackBerry for quite a while, to the point where I was on forums. I think the oldest one at the time was crackberry.com.
Crackberry.
Just as it sounds, it's amazing.
So many like weird websites about like phone stuff. I remember back, I mean, not to talk about touchscreen phones, but when I had my Nexus phones, I used to do stuff like that all the time. Yeah. Like XDA Developer was great and all, but you used to have to go to the sketchy sites to get the real good stuff.
Yep. So the fun thing, at least that I did with this phone, that trackball in the center had a light behind it, a little LED or whatever it was at the time. So it would light up at night to see where you're scrolling with your mouse on the little tiny screen and all that fun stuff. By the end of this thing's life cycle with me, we had fully disassembled the phone. Instead of it being silver, we had completely changed the face plates and the rear plates to being the AT&T red color. The The silver ring around the roller ball itself was swapped out for a matte black one just because it looked cooler. The screen was completely updated to a newer high resolution model at the time. And then that little trackball, as long as you didn't screw up the little pin indentations inside, you could pop out, and with some color changing film, you could place that behind the LED and change the color of your trackball. So whenever I wanted to, I just pop it out, put in a little blue filament or a red filament, and change the color of my tracking for it. It was a phenomenal device.
That's funny.
You used to be able to do a ton of stuff like that with phones, to be able to actually customize it a little bit. And you could do it with Apple MacBooks for a little bit, where the backlight would glow. You used to be able to like pop that off, put a filament in there to allow it to glow a different color and stuff. And now we just get slabs.
Slabs and decals. That's about as
slabs that you're not allowed to touch. Yeah.
Exactly. Like D-brand is the best you're gonna get, which is so sad when there were so many like cool phones back then.
Yeah.
So speaking of decals, way back then, before D-brand and cool scans and all that stuff was a thing, Decal Girl was around. They're based out of Maryland or Delaware, I believe. They're still around, still make high quality decals and everything. I use them more than any other thing that you can find online at this point. They're so obscure with just amazing stuff to pop on pretty much all your devices. They were used on my old Razrs, my old Envies, including this BlackBerry. It was,
and they're still
just
kicking
another
around.
Way.
Like you still, yeah, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I have that on my Pixel right now.
I like decals on phones. The problem is with me swapping them out every couple months, I don't get them anymore. I used to. Or even stickers now. I basically just get a case that works. I'm old. I don't have like dreams anymore. All that's out the door.
You are old. Who uses a case? I don't even use a case, really.
You don't use a case?
Yeah.
No. Never.
Oh my God, your phone just raw dogs life?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, but
there's nothing.
Wait, what's your phone now?
I got a Pixel 7.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You told me that.
And I just slapped one of the MagSafe adapters on the back of it, so I can plop it wherever.
So did you go right from BlackBerry to touchscreen stuff?
I did. I went from BlackBerry to BlackBerry. If you want to get into this just real quick, take a look at the BlackBerry Storm.
I remember this stupid freaking screen.
This touchscreen with
that screen was badass.
Oh, it was cool as hell. It was a so. Since nobody can see this, the BlackBerry Storm was a full-fledged touchscreen, except BlackBerry had it in their mind that instead of just tapping where you want to navigate and have it go, you would physically press on the screen, which would depress the screen and act as a physical clicker, if you will.
Tactile screens.
It was a tactile touch screen, if you will. So sounds amazing in premise. It was the worst phone I think I've ever owned. The thing was just hot garbage, froze up constantly. I ended up chucking it in my car or something and shattering the screen. That was the end of it. We're done here. John or Becky, you can go next.
All right. So my family was not quite as well off, I think, as Mike's may have been. In the day, but so I actually found out that I got my first cell phone in probably around 2007, 2008. So that was like right before hitting high school for me. Mm-hmm. Basically, I started high school in late 2008. Like 2008 was my freshman year of high school. So, and I know that because my first phone that I ever had was a track phone, and it was a Motorola C139. And it was just, your standard phone that looked like a modern Nokia knockoff type of thing, right? Color screen.
What is this thing?
Yeah. Welcome to poverty. No, I'm just kidding.
It was probably, not
poverty.
Much when you bought it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it was cheap as hell. And when I say we were poor, we weren't poor. You know, we definitely survived, but it was definitely a paycheck to paycheck situation, and we're not able to splurge on things like nice phones and stuff. We got things that worked, and we're able to make phone calls and stuff like that. Oh, that actually came out in 2005. We probably bought it.
Like it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, one of the websites that I was on said it came out in 2007, but maybe that's when I got it. But I do know it was only a little bit before high school when I got my first phone. So I mean, 2005 would probably track because my sister we got our first phones at the same time, even though she's 3 years older than me. And so she was in very early high school when she got hers, which means it was like 3 years before that point for me. But this phone, it had it all. Buttons, a small screen. You could call people. You could kind of text people. You could barely read the text you were sending on that small screen. But it had Brick Breaker and Snake that you could play on that tiny screen. And so, as you could imagine, Snake was a very difficult game to play on that screen because, you know, like you fill that bitch up real quick.
I mean, look at the resolution, 96 by 64.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
A 3-to-2 ratio, man. It's almost a square.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the call records that it could even hold was 10 dialed, 10 received, and 10 missed calls. If you got 11 missed calls, fuck the 11th person. You got 10 missed calls.
Not my problem.
Yep. Yeah, and so that was my first phone. It had a 910 milliamp battery. What was the talk time is 11 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh my God, because that's all you could do.
Yeah, there was nothing else to it. But yeah, so that was my first phone, and it was a good I mean, it lasted until my mom put us all on like a Verizon plan, basically. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't remember the model or anything of my first Verizon phone. It was probably just a basic LG flip. Like it was definitely a basic flip phone, but I don't remember like the brand. It may have been a Motorola flip phone. But you know, just one of those kind of older school flip phones that like, I do remember it did not have a screen on the front of it. It only had a screen on the inside.
Oh,
yeah.
Those are pretty rare, actually.
Yeah, they were pretty cheap too.
Yeah, that was like one of my first phones.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the first types of like flip. I mean, it was my first flip phone, so I was just excited to have it. Obviously, it was pretty cool. It was like a weird, like a blue color, like a really light,
blue,
nail polishy blue, like kinda.
Right down the center of it, silver on the sides.
It's so hard to find some of these older phones, specifically because no one has the actual names. They're shitty ass names.
I was just about to say the reason is what you just described earlier, in that the names are just freaking model numbers. Like it's like the last digits off the serial number is like, yeah, slap that on there for the model. Who cares?
Good enough. People go and buy it.
Oh, there it is. The Verizon, the VX3200. That was definitely one of the phones that I had. I don't know if it was the one right after, but that's not even on GSM Arena.
Apparently not. Nope. It's literally, so you can buy it for $10 if you want.
Hell yeah.
Oh, it had light up
buttons. Oh yeah,
removable battery.
Yeah, and so what was funny about that is that like that honestly seemed almost like a down. I mean, the screen and everything was an upgrade, but it seemed weirdly downgrade-ish. And maybe the one that I had was a little bit of a newer version of that exact one we're looking at right now. But that was the gist of the phone that was my next phone. And then like the phone started. I mean, we always in the beginning kind of got generic Verizon phones when the upgrades were up and stuff like that. So I'll kind of skip all that boring, like,
the basic flip phone.
Yeah. Basic flip phone over basic flip phone. Right. And then my sister got the Samsung Juke at the same time that I had one of these basic flip phones. And,
so I want to interject here real quick.
All right.
Because for whatever reason, in my mind, forever, the Juke was absolutely not Samsung. It was Motorola.
Yeah, I remember it being Motorola.
Like, I remember the M.
That's a Samsung Juke. It's a
Yeah,
Samsung.
like, in what world is that a Samsung?
Dude, this is the Mandela effect or whatever. Like we hopped universes, actually, just like how the Berenstain Bears are actually the Bernstein Bears.
Yeah.
Are we
Right?
thinking, John? Are we thinking of the chocolate or something?
No, because I know the chocolate, but
chocolate's
I always
LG.
thought the Juke. I
Yeah.
thought the Juke was a small version of the chocolate. And I thought the chocolate was Motorola too.
No, that's LG. Yeah.
What?
What is
My
going
whole
on
life
right
is a
now?
lie.
Yeah.
It's crumbling down.
Yeah, it's a yep. We hopped universes. This is the Berenstain Bears universe, John. So it's a Samsung Juke. All right.
It sure is.
Yep.
Sure, like it fully says Samsung on it. Like
It does, yeah. And
God,
so
this stupid thing.
my sister got the red one, and so that was the coolest shit in the world. How you could just flip it, and it was like literally built to be an MP3 player / phone. Like that's literally, I mean, that's
Yes.
of course why it's called the Juke, right? The Juke box, whatever. And so you could store music on it and stuff like that. And so my sister got that phone, and I still kind of had mine wasn't up for an upgrade or some crap. I don't even remember how that's possible because we got on the thing at the same time. But I was still using some crappy flip phone, and then my sister bought an LG chocolate off of one of her friends, and then I got the Juke. So like now we're starting to get to the point where I started getting hand-me-down phones from my sister because she would get a cool phone. She's like 3 years older than me, and you know, in high school, and all her high school friends have these cool phones, and so she's more in tune with the newer phones and stuff than I was at the time. And so she would get these cool new phones, and then I would get it after she got a new phone past that. And so it started with the Juke, and then she bought a chocolate, and she had the black chocolate, and then she got after the chocolate, she got a Droid. Actually, she went straight from the chocolate to the original Motorola Droid, I believe.
What a great phone.
Yeah,
The chocolate and the Droid, honestly.
yeah. And so I'm not going to talk about the Droid. I did end up getting that one later, but after I went through a bunch of phones on my own because I was getting into high school and coming into my own with knowing what phones were and stuff like that. So I had the chocolate after she handed it down to me, and then and it's going to be funny because some of my stuff went backwards because of what I'm about to describe. But the phones that I remember getting after the chocolate was the Alias, and I honestly don't remember the Alias's manufacturer, but it was the phone
one
that
or two.
I had the first one at first, and then I got the 2 as well. I had both. The 2 was really sick because it was like e-ink screens for every button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It sure was.
My
And you
sister
could
had
flip
this
it both
one.
ways.
This was the fun one where you could flip it up landscape or portrait using e-ink for the keyboard, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
And so the Alias 2 was obviously my favorite of the 2 because the keyboard would actually change based on which way you flipped it, which was really cool. And I loved this phone. I loved the Alias so much. That's probably my favorite non-smartphone, honestly, is the Alias 2.
So, what's hilarious about that is my favorite non-touchscreen phone is my freaking Alias 2.
Are you serious?
100%.
Oh, dude, I loved it.
adored that phone. I bought that off of a friend of mine because I liked it so much.
Yeah. I think I got mine on eBay or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you used to not be able to like buy phones that easy because they were under contract and crap. Because back then it wasn't just like you buy the phone, you bought the plan and got the phone with the plan, but you couldn't get rid of the phone until the plan was over.
Yeah.
And then you would get a new plan and they give you a new phone. Yeah, it was
all
a mess back then.
Yeah, what were you about to say? Turns out what about your friend?
I bought it from a friend, and you can't just buy phones from people.
Oh,
the
gotcha.
other people don't know what they're doing because, again, still under contract.
Yeah. But yeah, I loved the Alias too. And then at some point, I think I ended up going from the Alias 2 like directly to the NV3 it's going to be super weird, but I went like right to the NV3, and honestly, my timeline might be all jacked up, but this is where it gets kind of funny, because I went from the Alias 2, which I absolutely love that phone, to the NV3, which is also which I also loved. Like, that's a really nice phone. I liked, the fact that you had the buttons in the front and then you slide it up for QWERTY. Similar concept to Alias 2, where you can kind of have the best of both worlds, right? But I very, very, very vividly remember this moment where I dropped my NV3 in a bowl of Cocoa Pebbles, and I put
specifically Cocoa Pebbles.
Yes, I told you I remember it vividly. I dropped it in a bowl of freaking Cocoa Pebbles, and I put it in rice. I took the battery out immediately, put both of them in rice after wiping them down so that it wouldn't get sticky. Nah, bitch was dead, right? And so
she gone.
And so my girlfriend at the time, who happens to be my wife now, Amanda, she let me borrow her NV1. So I had to go from the NV3 all the way down to the 1. So I skipped the NV1 and 2, got the 3, and
one
then
was better.
Dropped right back down to the 1. And that was a cool phone, honestly. I kept that for a while. She had the green one, and it was a neat phone.
It was like a gross green too, wasn't it? It wasn't like a lime green.
Oh,
or something.
it was.
Like
it was
baby
shit green.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Freaking love
I
that
remember
thing.
that thing. That is gross.
The hinge on it was robust, though. Just flip it out in the public.
Oh my god!
Constantly. Oh yeah.
If I dropped that one in the Cocoa Pebbles would have broken.
Oh, easily.
That
was another good one that you just
Pebbles,
throw it on the floor. The battery just ejects and shoots 3 states over. You pop a new one in, you're good to go again.
Yeah.
The problem though with the Cocoa Pebbles is this chocolate milk too.
Yeah, dude, it was a mess.
Adds to it.
Yeah, it was a sticky mess. I tried to fix it, no good. But yeah,
it was gone for good by that point.
Yep, and that's what dropped me down to the NV1, and then I kept the NV1 until I got my sister's Droid, and that ends my pre-touch screen. I'm sure there were some phones here and there that I missed, but those were the highlights, basically.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, some of those phones were great, and I think you had the same, like, I don't want to say childhood, but same
trajectory almost.
Yeah, as kind of I did, because I have an older brother too who would get these phones and I'd really want them, and they'd go, "No, you're not old enough," even though you're 1 year older than me. But you know,
yeah,
whatever. I'm the middle child, so I always got hand-me-down stuff.
You don't exist,
had, like,
so you don't exist
exactly.
to your parents. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but I mean, we kind of had the same. I mean, trajectory of phones.
Yeah,
I do remember my parents had phones beforehand. And the very first phone I remember having in my hand, I must have been, maybe like 8, I want to say. Something like crazy young, where my dad had one of the original phones that had the battery in the front of it, as opposed to like, and it didn't have a screen or anything. It was literally just a phone. So it was, it's called the Motorola StarTAC. It's the 3.3. Oh, actually, it might not have been 3. Oh, yeah, it was. So it did have a phone or a screen. Oh,
just a little screen. That's like a screen that you had on a home phone, though. That's not like, yeah.
It shows every out of the 9 numbers.
Fancy. Yeah, but it had the battery on the front, which is the weirdest thing.
Dude, you know what's hilarious about that is that is the most wildly inefficient thing ever, because you have to take the battery cable and traverse the hinge. Otherwise, all you had to do was take the ear set cable and put it through the hinge. But instead, you got the power going through it, too. That's funny.
So I want, does it actually have... Oh, yep, it's at the bottom. Oh, my gosh. I remember, like, the chargers for old cell phones being the chonky things.
Oh, yeah.
You had to clip in there with the 2 clips on the side. You had to make sure to pull them off and you're ripping it out with it.
Oh, dude, and then, like, you had to have, like, one of those... like universal dongles that was like a freaking whip, dude. It was like a what are those whips called when there's the multiple tendrils? Like, I don't remember the name of that type of whip, but anyways, yeah, it was like a universal chargers that you would get from the frickin' store was like a big multi-tendrilled whip that you could hurt somebody with.
Yeah, because everything had a bunch of different connectors.
Yeah, there was no set standard. Bulk majority of them were like just thicker versions of a 30-pin lightning connector.
Yeah.
Yeah. Random freaking connectors.
70.
Yeah. But that was the first one I remember having. Now, the very first phone I ever had was the VX8300. So while that name probably doesn't ring any bells in anybody's ears until they actually see the thing. So the 8300 was, let me go ahead and pull up a picture so you guys can see it if you don't know already. This is like a generic phone that most people had. It was like readily out there. And funny enough, I've been watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and they have one in there. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. So anyone who's listening, it's a gray Verizon phone that had a screen on the front. It had a camera that was on the front of the phone, the part that flipped, so that you could close it and use the front as a camera and kind of like take a selfie using it.
Yeah,
or you could flip it up.
Was that that had to have been one of the first flip phones that actually had a camera on it, right? Like
it was definitely close. Yeah,
definitely one of them.
I remember having like full touchscreen and things that had the speakers on the side that were surprisingly good for what it was. But yeah. I mean, the thing lasted. The battery life was ridiculous on it. But I had that for a couple months, and then we live in the Northeast, where we have this weird phenomenon called snow. And when I was a child, I was notably a very clumsy and forgetful thing.
Wait, when you were a child?
I know, not like I am now. I know. Absolutely, completely on the opposite side of what I am now.
Oh, obviously.
I had that phone, and I would use it all the time, texting people, playing music on it, even though I really shouldn't have because it wound up costing my parents money, and I didn't realize at the time. But one day I'm like looking for it, and I can't find it. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I'll just let it go. I'll find it, kind of thing. And I let it go a day, and I tried to find it, couldn't find it. Like searching everywhere for it, calling it, nothing at all. And I was like, okay, great. I don't have a cell phone now. I think I got the cell phone when I was in 7th or 8th grade. Something like that, where I started playing sports and I had to be able to be picked up from school at weird times. So I needed a way to kind of call back, and my brother and I got him at the same time. So, but it went missing and I didn't know where it was. Well, I fast forward 6 months till winter was over, and out of the snowbank in my front yard, there it is. It wound up falling out of my pocket while I was getting out of a car and then getting plowed into a snowbank on the side of my house and sat there all winter long.
Did it turn on after?
So I went to it. I grabbed it. It didn't turn on right away, obviously. It's been sitting for 6 months.
Hey.
I took everything out. I threw it in rice because that's what you did when something got wet back then.
Yep.
I gave it a couple hours. I took it out. I put the battery in and it booted up. Just straight like that. The front was white. This front screen just was white. It wasn't working. But the normal screen, no issues whatsoever. 6 months in a snowbank. And I had zero issues with it. Like, you sneeze a little too hard at an Android phone now and it shatters and cries. But this thing just shoved in the snowbank for 6 months. Like, I got this.
Yeah,
hold my antenna.
It's just cryogenically frozen.
That's true too.
Dude, so that phone for the people listening in is like, there was a period of time where if somebody who was over the age of 30 had a Verizon phone that was a feature phone, like a flip phone, this is the phone they had. Like, no matter
100%.
what. Even after,
this is the one they gave out all the time.
Even after smartphones came out in the beginning, this was like the feature phone that stuck around for a long time for those people that were still holding on to feature phones. And like, it's the one where the ends of the hinges are the speakers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like the ends of the hinges are the speakers. It's got the camera. It's got like the little next and pause play on the front. Oh man, yeah, that's like the quintessential Verizon feature phone.
And I
Yeah.
don't remember this thing whatsoever.
They're like, I have a family of 4. We all need phones, but I don't want to spend money on the phones. I want them to be free with our plan. They go, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
all
got
right.
just what you need.
Yep. Here's your 4
Come to the
phones.
back. They got like a stack of 1,000,000 of them.
I was gonna say they open the door, it just falls on them, all of them. Like,
Yeah.
yep. That's like the phone.
I love it. I loved that phone. Like I can. My parents actually still have this phone. Not using it. They're not still using it. They're both on smartphones, but they still have that phone in their house. I remember seeing it a couple of Christmases ago where I was just looking through stuff, and it was really cool to be able to see it, and it still works. It still boots up.
That's crazy.
Which is obnoxious. But I went right from there, right actually, I believe, to the phone I was talking to at the beginning. This thing right here. This is the LG Decoy.
Oh.
So this thing was a flip phone. It had a really good screen on it. You could watch like videos and stuff, which was really neat.
No, that's a
But
slide.
the very back of it.
Are you sure that's a flip? That
Yeah,
looks like
it's a slide phone.
Yeah, slide. Okay.
It's a slide phone. Slide, not flip.
Yeah. Okay.
And on the back of it, it clipped in was a Bluetooth 1.0 headset.
Oh,
With
that
the
must
chunkiest
be
earpiece ever. Oh, how often did it fall out of your ear, and how often did it scratch the inside of your earlobes?
I lost it in a month. She was gone.
Didn't even give her a chance.
The little clip on it was notably really bad. So it would listen, when you're a kid and you have a cell phone, like a flip phone, you're flipping it all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like this OCD thing you do to keep yourself busy and occupied. Well, my thing with this was not only slide it up and down, but to clip and unclip the Bluetooth headset. So eventually it clipped and wouldn't clip back in, and I just kind of had to hold it there. And then within a week, it was gone. I mean,
jeez.
it's not like it was good.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
but it
dude,
worked.
Bluetooth now isn't even good. Still, Bluetooth 1 must have been the biggest hot pile of garbage ever.
I can't even imagine the latency. Like, can you imagine trying to listen to music on it?
Oh my god!
I mean,
dude,
or like
Bluetooth wasn't
YouTube
even meant
video.
for music then.
I do remember
No, it
it back
wasn't.
then using one of the old Motorola Bluetooth, whatever you want to call them, things. The only real times that I had issues with it, granted, I never watched music, listened to music. I mean, watch it, listen. Whatever.
That's when you spend too
Close
much
enough.
time on crackberry.com. You start watching
exactly,
music.
yes. I just remember it losing connectivity if I was wearing baggy jeans or something. And I had the phone in my pocket.
Your jean coat jeans.
Yeah.
Baggy jeans.
You a too damn thick boy.
It's 2007. Quicksilver was still a thing. I was cool back then.
Yeah.
Oh my god. This is never cool. I adore this one. This is the phone that I learned how to type in my pocket with T9. Because you used to be able to slide it out quick and just type it. You used to be able to pull it out of your pocket a little bit to see the text message, and then you put it back in. You could type, no problems whatsoever. You knew exactly how to get around every single menu. Like, no matter where you were able to get to the messages and go to it and type back. Oh,
Well, yeah, you only
Man,
had 9
this is what I
options
had.
back then.
Yep. I wound up breaking the hinge at one point too, like complete in two. Like the thing was destroyed. I don't even remember what I was doing. It was
Wow.
I don't even know. And we went back to Verizon and they got me another one for free because back then you used to be able to swap out the phones because they were pretty cheap. They weren't $1,200 phones.
Yeah, they didn't give a crap. They were like, "Oh, you're still on our plan? Cool. Here's a phone."
Yup. But this one lasted me quite a long time. My childhood time frames are all screwed up because
Yeah.
I have gaps in my memory missing that are just like gone for good. Because again, clumsy child. I think I had 4 or 5 concussions as a kid. So
Jesus.
like, and they're all stupid ones too. Like
Stop
skiing,
running into the brick
four-wheeling.
wall.
Yeah, diving board. I slipped back my head over. Yeah, it was bad. Anyway.
All right, so hold on.
so,
I'm
like-
just going to pause you real quick because I just want to make note that the person who, as a child, has had 5 concussions and has literal memory loss and memory gaps started a nostalgia podcast.
I want to remember these things, man. This is the only way.
That's a head scratcher. You didn't tell that to me before you sold this podcast idea to me.
Don't worry about it. It's not part of the pitch, you know? It's part of the story.
Reliving childhood by being a child.
It's reliving childhood memories that I forgot because they're gone.
Oh my God.
But it's amazing how much talking about this stuff just like lets me remember back then.
Yeah.
Because there was so much, like, I forgot the LG chocolate was a thing. I didn't have it or anything, but like it was such a cool and iconic phone at the time that it was just, I forgot about those memories altogether until you mention it and I see a picture and it's like,
Yeah.
Yep, I remember the commercials. I remember spinning around and, oh yeah.
It's cool
So
stuff.
I have to ask both of you guys, maybe this is just something that I did way back in the day, but for all the logos that were on those things, so Verizon or the LG logo, did you guys take sugar cubes and rub it against the phone to get rid of the logos?
What?
No. I would put stickers on. I'd put like stickers on them if the, you know, like you could put like that one looks like it'd be a pretty tight fit for us. So you'd have to get a sticker that said some other words. But I'd put a sticker over them. Sugar cubes? That works?
Did that work?
It was granular and fine enough that it would get rid of the old school vinyl or whatever was on the phones, but not actually damage the plastic.
Wow. That's cool.
Interesting.
You guys were sheltered as children.
Yeah, sugar cubes are basically like little sandpaper cubes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
I wonder what grit a sugar cube is. But
John, Google this. We need to know.
We need to know.
This tangent has officially gone haywire. When we're looking up the grit of sugar cubes. For one, I really think it depends on the sugar cube. I would assume there's not a universal grit.
A domino sugar cube. Like Domino is the brand that's like we're not talking like an Aldi's sugar cube or something. We're talking about Domino
we
sugar
won't even
cubes.
go classy like a crystal Domino, the everyday man sugar.
Yeah,
not those 100 grit Aldi's ones.
Yeah,
we need something good. Give me 800 or above.
Did we just discover a new podcast just talking about different grits for food items?
Huh. We may have.
We'll call it salty grits.
Salty grits.
Anyway,
coarse or fine.
I also completely forgot the 100% funniest thing about this phone, the decoy, is when the Bluetooth headset was on the back, it did not charge it.
Wow.
It had a charger on the side of it. You had to plug it in.
Oh my God, that's the worst.
Dupla charging.
You absolutely, here it is right here. You had to plug it in still. So like you would always have this dead Bluetooth adapter on your phone.
Let me ask you this. Did it use the same charger as the phone?
I don't think so. So
it came
I think it plugged into the phone. Yeah, it plugged.
Oh my!
They're both. They're both micro USB.
Okay, and so did you get two cables?
Thing.
Did you get two chargers in the box? Do you remember?
I have absolutely no idea. I don't remember the box. So.
I was gonna say if they give you,
I probably never got the box.
If they gave you one charger, that is just the cherry on top for the worst design ever.
Yeah, right.
You can't even charge them both at the same time without buying something extra. Although that's what Apple's doing now, I guess. So
that that's fair. I went right from this phone to the NV1 though. I had a buddy of mine in high school. I was a freshman and I wanted a new phone. I mean, I had this phone for like a year and a half, 2 years, and that was it for me. I wanted something new. So I bought a buddy of mine's NV for $100. Little did I know that's probably what they cost from Verizon at the time, but whatever. And I used that. I tried to use that thing. So I had it, I was playing with it, and then I finally got the courage to ask my parents to be able to put it on the plan and transfer it over. Because back then, Verizon was not SIM cards because they were CDMA only. They were actually, you had to call in a number, put in the password, and then you could activate a new phone.
Mm-hmm.
So you couldn't just swap out an SD.
And you had to read out.
Yeah, SIM.
The IMEI and everything.
Mhm.
Yep, the whole thing. And then they would have you turn off the old phone, and you had to make sure to turn it off, or else the whole thing was just garbage and couldn't do anything with it. And then you had to do the new phone. And I went to go do that, and they were like, "Yep, we'll let you do it. Whatever. You have the phone." Went and put in the IMEI. It failed, and that was my first realization that CDMA and GSM are two very different things. And you cannot use a singular phone on Verizon's network. It was a
Oh
sad
my
day.
god. So you bought an NV1 from your friend, but it was on Singular.
I
God, remember?
did.
Yeah, remember
After I bought
Singular?
it and everything.
Singular
I
was a
do.
thing. They had like the little
They were,
Mhm.
guy was the logo, right? Like the little puffy kind of bubbly guy.
yeah. I wound up liking the Envy one, and I really liked how it was a bigger phone and had a bigger screen on it. I thought it was really cool. And I went to Verizon, and they're like, "We don't sell that anymore. We only sell this new one." And I was like, "You son of a bitch, I'm sold."
Yeah.
So I got the NV2, and I used the shit out of this phone.
Mm.
Like, this phone it was one of those times where, when you use the phone too much and like the entire front of it is just like white because you've worn off all the
Yeah.
lettering.
Yep.
Yep,
Or you use
that's
sugar.
what it was. This, yeah, because you use too much granulated sugar.
Yeah. Or you bought that freaking Walmart brand sugar with too low grit. Just rubbed it right off.
Exactly, and ruined it. I had the red one though, and like that phone was just incredible. Like, and we say incredible in like relative terms, right? It was absolute shit.
No, that
When you're
was
in the
the
grand
time, it
scheme of
was-
things.
at the time.
Exactly.
There you got to think back then. This was the pinnacle of engineering and technology. To have a full-fledged keyboard, including a space bar on a cell phone,
Oh,
that
man,
was
that
mind
was so
blowing.
good.
I know. Oh, back in the day, like, it's just looking back at these phones is incredible.
So-
if anyone hasn't done it, just look at pictures of their old phones.
So I actually think I believe it was the NV2 that I dropped in the Cocoa Pebbles. It was not the 3. I was mistaken. I don't think I had. Can we pull up the NV3 real quick? Just for
Not
my
many
own
people
curiosity?
this is
had the
NV3
3
right
because
here.
by the time
Yep,
the 3
I
came
never
out,
had
there
the
were
3.
so many other options available that were better.
Yeah,
Didn't really matter.
So
I had the 2,
the
not
2
the
was
3.
more popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of figured the 3 was towards the end of things. Like, I'm pretty sure the let's see, the NV3 release date. Are we gonna take guesses?
I'm gonna say
2009.
8, 9.
2009.
Mhm.
Yeah, mid 2009. Yeah. So
So
that was when you started to get into smartphone territory, right?
Yeah, why would I pick
Yeah.
this if back at the what
think the
was it
Droid
back in
had come out by
2009?
then.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought
the first
Droid was
Moto Droid.
2010.
That was the one
thought-
with the OG slide up
Oh yeah,
tactile
the QWERTY.
keyboard. Yep.
I will always remember the sound that it made when it turned on.
Droid. Yeah,
Ah,
so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, when did that
it
release?
was
That was I remember the membrane for
October.
that keyboard
2009.
falling apart.
Yep. So the 3 was at the very edge of all
smartphones.
things flip phone for most people, because that's when you started to get into your 3G plans, right? You wanted some sort of internet on your phone as well, because they started integrating social networks into things, and you just couldn't do that with a flip phone. There wasn't enough, power behind it. When you had these Droid with these ARM chips and stuff, they were able to actually do that with Android.
Not true.
But
My,
it is-
my BlackBerry used to do it.
Kind of. The BlackBerry did a very, very, very basic
It was
job. of that.
rudimentary,
But yes,
but it got me around.
did.
GameFAQs and Crackberry. That's all I cared about as a kid.
it's fair. You definitely did it. Oh my god. I shouldn't have looked at these, because smartphones are like where my passion's at, and this is my favorite phone right here. It's the Xperia
Oh.
Play. This thing was amazing. It was made by Sony, so it had PSP games you could get on it and run.
I had
Wow,
it for all of
really?
3 minutes. It was atrocious.
It ran horribly.
Yeah.
And the whole it's a bad phone, but we'll talk about it in our smartphone episode, because that I can go into detail about those. But I had so many smartphones. But yeah, that was the NV2 was the last basic dumb phone I had, and then I switched over to the Motorola Devour. It's time for the patented 1 out of 10.
Yep.
So I'm looking for you guys go over the phones in your head, the ones you've seen, the ones you've talked about, the ones that you remember from your childhood. Give me a phone that you thought was an absolute trash phone. 1 out of 10, not worth buying, not even worth looking at. Mike, what do you got?
All of them were fun in their own regards, from the original LG flip phone that I had all the way up to the BlackBerry Curve. There is not a single one that I could say was bad. The Razr was phenomenal. The Envy was phenomenal. My Curve was godly at the time. I couldn't say that there's a 0 on that list whatsoever. Straight to the BlackBerry Storm, that piece of freaking garbage that can rot in hell.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Here, why don't we do this? You think about it. Find one. Becky, I think you got one lined up, don't you?
I do already, yeah.
Let's go. What is it?
Easy. Samsung Juke. That phone was a piece of shit, dude. It was so skinny. It's like its music thing was kind of cool. Like, it was all right. It was a good MP3 player. It was not a good phone. I'll leave it at that, because its screen was super thin and its keys were super small. Like, my fat thumbs could not. Like, I mean, I wasn't fat when I had it, but like, even my thumbs were way too big to be able to press the buttons. It was definitely made for like 5-year-olds, I think. That those are who like did the user acceptance testing on the keyboard, was the 5-year-olds.
It's just a bunch of 5-year-olds sitting around a table playing with Tonka trucks.
Yeah, and with jukes, like, they're just like, here's some jukes. But yeah, the Samsung Juke has to be my 1 out of 10 for phones that I've owned. Otherwise, honestly, for what they were, all the other phones I had were rock solid. But the Juke can burn in hell.
Oddly enough, your favorite and your least favorite phone are the exact same as mine.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, so the Alias I had in between the Devour and the Envy, or after the Envy, but before the Envy 2. I only had it for a little bit because the keys actually broke, and I literally only had it for like a month. So I didn't actually get to like it
sad.
and stuff, but it was so incredible. I know, but my least favorite, I didn't even own the thing, and I know that the Juke is horrifically bad, specifically because my family decided to get my grandma, who was 70-something at the time, a cell phone. And for whatever reason, they stuck with the Juke. She can't really read stuff in front of her. She has a hard time seeing small screens, and they got her the smallest phone. And you know who had to work with her?
Oh, obviously
to set everything up.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Oh, it was so bad. And she would just try and call people and just press all the buttons at once with their thumb.
That salesperson at Verizon must be a godly salesperson.
Right?
To sell the opposite of what she really needed to people. That's insane.
She needs like the Firefly. You guys remember that phone?
No. Not by name. Pull it up. Pull it up.
The Firefly phone was
for kids.
An absolute abomination for children.
Oh, yeah.
This thing, for anyone listening, it's literally got a regular, like, black and white screen. It's got a call and answer, a
address
dad and
book.
a mom button,
and
an address book. And that's it. You couldn't text, you couldn't do anything with it. It worked on the cellular plan, and it was just the most basic of basic. And that's like what we like along those lines is what we wanted to get her, and they decided on the Juke. And I think the reason they did it was because it was one of the first phones that had actual voice commands.
Oh, man.
And I think that's how they sold it. But man, you press the 5 and you press every other button around it.
Yeah, which is every other button. You press the 5 and you press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
And then
surprise. Yeah. That phone was not
100%.
Good. Yeah. That's funny.
We're rolling it back here. Mike, give us one.
Motorola Aura.
The Motorola Aura
came out after smartphones were a thing. This thing made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Yeah, I went to Verizon one day and was just looking at it. It was like,
wait, this came out after smartphones?
Wait.
Oh. Yeah, this came out, I want to say 2008, 2009.
That is...
I just looked at it wondering why.
We're going to move on to guess that Pokemon. Not guess that Pokemon, guess that sound.
All right.
So we're going to play Guess That Sound. I'm going to play a sound. You both are going to guess it. The winner gets a certain amount of points that I will decide at the moment. I believe, Mike, you have about 6 points, and Becky has about 320. somewhere around there.
Sounds about
for
right.
guessing correctly. So depending on how I feel with whoever gets this right depends on how many points you get. So I'm going to play the sound. It's going to be about 2 seconds of the actual sound. I'm going to stop it. And you're going to guess it. If you can guess it right, awesome, great, give you points. If not, we'll keep it going and we'll see if you can guess it, okay?
All
I'm
right.
not even giving you any hints this time. You guys just have to guess it. All right? So here we go.
Sony PlayStation 2.
What's your guess, Becky?
It sounded like the PlayStation 1, not the 2.
Ooh. So we got the 1 versus the 2.
Trying to remember.
Well,
Now,
that.
did you both have 1 and 2?
It's not even a PlayStation. Watch.
Yeah, I know.
It's just straight up like the Sega Saturn or something.
Yeah. No, that really sounded like the intro to the PlayStation 1.
Yeah, now you have me thinking I'm...
Did you have the 1 or the 2?
I had both, yeah. I obviously started with the 1, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had both.
What about you? What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I had both of them.
You did have both of them. Okay, so they're just blending together.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you a hint. One of you is correct. It is, in fact, a game console made by Sony.
Oh, PS Vita,
It is
obviously.
either the 1 or the 2.
Keep it playing because there's
Alright.
there's a very distinctive uptone jingle on the PlayStation 1.
All right.
Yep, it's the PlayStation 1.
Yeah, it is. There you go.
It is, in fact, the PlayStation 1. The PlayStation 2 sounded a little different, and I think, actually, if we let this play a second... Oh, that sound, though. It reminds me of Crash Bandicoot.
It reminds me of Lara Croft. There's the
There it
PlayStation
is.
2.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I'm thinking of.
Yes,
Okay.
PlayStation 2.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, the
That reminds me
PlayStation...
of Sly Cooper.
Yeah, the PlayStation 1 reminds me of the Pizza Hut demo disc, straight up.
Here we go again.
So...
Yep. That's it.
We'll talk about this when we get to the
I
game
know.
consoles and stuff.
Dude, I love that demo disc. I love it.
I'd never even heard of it until you mentioned it.
Missing out.
It reminds me of Crash and like Spyro and stuff. Oh, what a great day! But you did get it, which means you actually get negative 120 points.
Sweet.
All
right.
So, yep, good job there.
Good job. Mike is catching up. I got it right, and Mike is catching up.
Mike's catching up. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.